Okay, we're going to get started in just a minute. This is Let's Talk Tuesday, so that if you've got some questions that you would like to have answered, we can do this. I'm going to tell you that normally I'm pretty much scripted. We're still counting down, apparently. Okay. I'm going to tell you that pretty much I script a lot of what I say, but this morning I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. My brain was just racing and I could not turn it off. And so what you're going to get is kind of a rant, but I think it's actually going to be better than what I had originally wrote. So there are a couple things that I want to talk about. One of the things that I want to talk about is that every year we all make New Year's resolutions, okay? And what happens is after, a few days or after a couple of, weeks, if we're lucky, it fizzles, right? And so you're in a situation where you've made this resolution and you're not making any headway on it. And so I want to talk about why that is, why that happens. And if you're joining me, just type in the text box and say hi and where you're from. So I want to kind of tear the Band-Aid off, and I want to be a little nuts. And I hope that if you're listening to this on record, you will understand. So the first thing is that with resolutions, typically, we make a resolution. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to change this. I'm going to stop smoking. A lot of our resolutions are health resolutions, okay? And the problem with that is that it's not big enough. We need something that's going to be big enough to get us through not only this year, but get us through subsequent years, all right? So what I want you to think about is I want you to evolve from resolution to legacy. I want you to think about, what will people say about me when I'm gone? Did I matter? Did I make a difference? So, when you're dead and they're doing your obituary, that sounds terrible. They're not going to say, she lost those last 10 pounds, or, she stopped smoking. That's not what they're going to remember you about. And I have to be honest, legacy was not something that a year or a year and a half ago I was thinking about, but it has made a huge difference in my life and the way that I'm looking at things. So the question is, what do you want your legacy to be? What impact do you want it to have? Now, here's the other truth. You say, well, I'm not making an impact. You are making an impact just by the fact that you are physically in this world. You are impacting people. You can be impacting them for positive or for negative, but you are impacting them. And the thing is that without a direction or a focus, you're not going to have the kind of impact that you want. So an example, as a mother, and if you're at a point in your life where maybe you feel like there's more, you haven't done what you wanted to do, you haven't, your dream of what you wanted to be when you grow up, you haven't reached that, and you don't go after that now, the impact that you're having on your daughter is, without saying it, is that it's not possible to have what you want. You may be preaching it to her. You can be anything, you can do anything. But what she sees is the role model that you are presenting, that she, that you didn't do it and that you can't do it. And so the choice is, what role model do you want to do? What do you consciously want to do? I mean, you are, just by waking up every day and breathing air and being in the world, you are making a contact, an impact. And so the question is, let's see how we can do this better. Let's see how we can do it in a way that's really going to make us more impactful and to help other people. So the first thing I'm going to say to you is, there's an incredible need for awareness, right? Awareness of that bigger impact and desire that you've got, that it evolves from just like, this is what I'm going to do to this is who I am. This is my gift to this world. Now, if you had asked me this, like I said, when I was younger, I would have been, I don't have a gift. I don't have a talent. And one of the reasons for that is because our gifts and talents come very natural to us. I mean, we do not recognize them. I mean, every once in a while something will happen and you go, oh my God, I can't believe that he couldn't figure this out, or, what is wrong with this person? They can't do this. And those are our gifts and talents because we don't even think about it. It just happens. And it happens in a lot of different places in our life, right? So having the awareness that you do have talents, that you do have these special gifts, and that you can help others with that, right, is one of the awarenesses. And that's how you start to think bigger. Now, it took me a long time to figure out what I want my legacy to be. And what I discovered was I want to help women navigate and discover their talents and stop being numb to their brilliance. I mean, I meet so many women who I think are like amazing, and they think that they're just very ordinary. And I have to tell you that I've been there. I felt that way myself. So, part of what we talk about a lot is limiting beliefs. I wish I had a different word for that, but it's true. I mean, some of the limiting beliefs are, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too poor, I got too much money, I'm not good enough, I'm alone, I'm invisible. All right. And so those are some of the things that are holding you back. And here's what I want to tell you. It's really hard, if that's what your foundational subconscious foundational thoughts are, it's really hard to build a really good structure that's going to stand. And so we need to come up with an awareness of that and how we can change that. Because once you change that and change your mindset, which is another kind of buzzword, but it's very apropos, it changes your whole, it's like changing the lens. You see the whole world differently. It's like that example of when you're pregnant, suddenly the whole world is pregnant. You notice that when you say, hey, I'm looking for other women that want to be, exist in the world in a certain way, suddenly you're drawn to find them, which is great because you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to be in this by yourself. And so it's really important to be able to be aware of what it is that you want to create, that when you get to the end of your life, that you can say that you mattered. Now, the other thing that I think is really interesting is this is a great time in your awareness to take advantage of the timing in your life. It can be an incredible source of energy, and it can be something that can really change the way that you look at things. So if you are at a point in your life where suddenly, you've got an empty nest, right? Well, it wouldn't be suddenly because it was coming. You hope it was coming. You're an empty nester, and suddenly it's just you and your husband, or suddenly it's just you, right? This is a great time to say, hey, let me take a look and see what it is that I really want to do. I mean, when we're early in our lives and we're trying to do a career and we're trying to raise our kids and we're in relationships and all that kind of stuff, sometimes it's harder to look at a bigger picture because you're just trying to survive the day to day. I remember when my kids were young and they were both, like under 6. And I was in graduate school. I remember coming home and I'd say, what do you want for dinner? And they said oatmeal. And I thought, thank God I can do that. The thought of actually cooking a dinner was like overwhelming with all the other things that I had to do. So now you're at a point in your life where all those things are pretty much under control. Either you've decided that, you figured out a system for them, or you decide they don't matter. And so you just don't do them anymore, which is a great way to be too. So now you're in a different part of your life And now you have the room and the willpower and the personal experiences and the talents that you can actually put this together and be a dynamo, to actually go forward and have a huge impact on other people. And that's where I think we don't tend to think. I mean, I went through a period where I was like, I'm getting older. Maybe I should just roll it up and call it quits. And I found that that was so unfulfilling that I had to say, okay, how do I do this? How do I get out of this, right? But what I am going to tell you is that the things that are going on now and that are coming in the future are going to be very different than the things that you've had before. So some of the things in your life that are ahead of you are possibly aging parents. You may be looking at career changes. You may start having some health issues. Friends may be dying. Relationships are strained, right? But believe it or not, that's a normal part of our journey as women. We are getting to the point where we have a certain amount of wisdom that we can mentor other younger women, that we can mentor ourselves. So the next thing that I want you to talk about is the idea that before you can have major impact, you have to look at yourself first. That's part of the awareness, but it also is knowing what it is that you want. And so I'm gonna give you kind of a sentence that I want you to say, right? And that sentence is, I am, okay? And whatever that is, I am unstoppable. I am a thought leader. I am, and it's about you. What is it that you want to be able, that's going to energize you every day as you go forward? Not just the New Year's resolution of I am 10 pounds thinner, okay? I am a thought leader. I am a mentor of women, right? That's your legacy. That's what you're into. So the other part that I'm going to give to you is the actual letters that I-A-M. So I is, it's you. You have to put yourself first, at least some of the time, because you have probably built up such an incredible amount of tolerance for things that you don't like or want in your life. You are numb to the things that you should not be tolerating. Have you ever gone to the doctor's and he goes, he goes something and you go, oh, that hurts. And he goes, well, when does it hurt? Well, it didn't hurt before this. And he'll say, well, why didn't it hurt? And you go, well, I don't do that. So you've learned to compensate, okay, for the things that are uncomfortable in your life. And I'm saying you got to dig them up. You got to face them. You have to look at them and see what's going on. So the first part is, the first I is, stands for you, I. And it also stands for information. What information do I need to get me from where I am to where I need to be, and that legacy piece? And I think that means that you need a growth mindset. So you need to be a sponge. You need to take in information, and it doesn't have to be the formal kind where you sit down and take a year degree or a 4-year degree. Okay, it can be information in a lot of ways. And one of the best ways, I think, is to be in a coaching group or in a mastermind group, because you get to share with others and you get to learn from them as well. I mean, I think that's a really powerful way to do it. And I think the other thing is that it tends to be more specific about what you're looking for. The A is activation. You can have information, but if you don't put it to work, it's not going to take you anyplace. So we have to find a way to activate it so that you implement the new things that you learn and the new goals that you're setting. And how do you pick yourself up? How do you recover when things don't go the way you think they will? Because when you're changing, like I said in one of the videos, with change comes unexpected consequences. And that's just the normal part of change, that you have this push-pull where you're going back to the old way while you're trying to go to the new way. So How do you activate it? What are your backup strategies? Okay. The last one is M, is motivation. Why are you doing what you're doing, and what do you want to, accomplish? Why does it matter to you to get this done? Why is it important that you pick yourself up again and start to have some impact, or have more impact, or have impact in a different way? So that's the first thing that I want to talk about. So somebody's joining me. So if you've got a question, type it into the box. Otherwise, I'll keep going. And what I want to warn you about is, I said I had kind of a script that I was going to do, but instead, because I woke up at 5 this morning, I'm going to kind of riff on the things that woke me up and had me thinking and had me excited. So hi to whoever that is. And again, if you are listening to this later, you can always still send me an email or a message, and I will answer it either next Tuesday or directly back to you. So we've talked about the idea that you have to stop thinking about a short-term goal to make 2020 and beyond better. You have to think about something much bigger, something that really is part of you, something that's going to be your legacy, something that really matters to you, that's important to you. And then you need to put yourself first so that you can achieve that, right? So that you can change your thinking and have ways and strategies that are going to help you work your way through that. And, it's not that you're going to wake up one morning and say, this is it. You're going to wake up and say, this is more like it. And the more you do it, the more like it is, until you finally find it. It's a process. It's a journey. And you get better at it as you go along. And that's the good news, that you don't have to be perfect, because, trying to be perfect is the thing that gets us paralyzed and has us do nothing. The other part, as a recap, is that you're at a time in your life right now that's the best time ever for you to go forward and do some other things. So we're talking about legacy and closing that gap, and reaching higher, and then having a system. So you probably have some systems in your life right now that work really well for you. But I want to say to you, you may want to think about changing some of those systems, either in a dramatic way or a simple way. So, sorry about that. So we tend to think, or we've been taught to think, very linearly. And I'm a very linear person. I mean, but one of the things that I do know is that linear thinking tends to, is my safety net. It doesn't let me necessarily dig deep or get into my inner feelings, because it says, I checked off these boxes and I should get these results. But the problem with that is that the things that we're passionate about don't necessarily fall into a box. Just like, my linear thinking says to me, I should have a script for this. All right. My more feminine thinking and my more emotional thinking says, I'm just going to let it rip. We're going to tear the bandage off. We're going to really go for it. I'm going to tell you what's on my mind. And that's been like a very slow change for me, because it feels like, you're dancing without a net. But without trying it, you don't know. So, one of the systems that I have that's kind of like a hybrid is to ask the question, what's the purpose of what I'm doing? So in this case, we're saying, if you're doing something or you're setting up a project, what's the purpose? Is the purpose to help me define my legacy? Or is the purpose just to go check off the box in a linear manner? And I think that that's something that's really important as you're starting to make a change, because, the old thing, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you got, right? So if we keep going at it in a linear way, I want to make a certain amount of money. I break that down into 12 months. I break that down into, 4 weeks. in that situation. So it's really easy not to make those steps because we've made it consistent, but we don't grow in a straight line. We kind of stair step. We find something that works. It's like, and then we shoot up, and then we find something that works, and then it shoots up, right? So doing it in a linear manner, I think, gives you more disappointment. All right. So I'm going to share a concept that's part of my system. It's called dead reckoning. Dead reckoning is a sailing term, and when sailors sail, you can't go in a straight line because of the currents and the wind. And so they pick a place on shore, and that's where they want to end up. That's your legacy. That's your, what you're anchoring all your thoughts to. And regardless what happens, you self-correct to keep you in line with where you want to go. So as you're deciding what you want, you may decide you're going to go a little bit this direction and explore it. And if that's not right, and it's not getting you where you want to go, you self-correct. You keep your dead reckoning in your sights. All right. So that is one of the reasons that having longer term goals, a longer term legacy is going to get you where you need to go. And the other part to that is, as you're doing that, knowing that you may not always hit your target, but if you learn something from that, you are going to be so much better off than you were before. So the question is, what is the purpose? What did I learn? And how does this get me to my dead reckoning and to my legacy? Okay. And I think that those are three questions that you can incorporate into your systems that will change what you're doing. The other part to that I'll go back to is, we tend to think that we're alone. And, the linear thinking tends to make us not be as open and revealing to others. And I have to tell you, this is something that I have worked very hard on this year. And, my husband and I have been together for a long time. And he does a lot of things for me. And I decided that I really needed to let him know how much I appreciate him and all that he does. And so we were flying someplace when I go to a conference, whatever, he goes and he gets to do something for play. And I spend the time in the 3 days in the conference, right? So we were on the plane and I reached across the aisle and I tapped him on his knee and I said, honey, I just want to let you know you are a really good man. You do so much for me. And he looked at me and went, what'd I do wrong? I said to him, you didn't do anything wrong. If anything, I did, I'm not being good because I'm not letting you know all the good things that you do for me. And so it's like a game with us now that I really try every day to say something that I appreciate about him so that we can have much better conversation and connection and honesty in our relationship. Because like I said, over time, you become very numb to the things that you are tolerating. So as a very fast recap, I'm going to say, make sure, let's take a look at awareness. Know that the change that you want to make is not a small change. It's not a New Year's resolution. The change that you're going to make is one that's going to be a much bigger one that's going to have something to do with your legacy, so that when you later on in your life, you can say, I mattered. I impacted people. The world is much better because I'm here. It already is better because you're here, but you can amplify that effect if you put the energy into that. The other thing is, the things that you want don't happen by accident. A person doesn't wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to be an Olympian. It doesn't happen that way. They have to train. They have to have an intention. They have to do the work. And so you're going to have to do the work as well. But if you have the dead reckoning, then you know what you're working towards. You know what you're going for in the long term. And then the last thing is have a system. All right, have a system that will pick you up. I mean, part of my system, which sounds really silly, is I always have a mantra. or I have a cliche saying that helps me to get through the moment right then. So, one of mine is it doesn't matter how many times you fall down. It only matters how many times you get up. And, I started using that when I started losing weight. And for those of you that don't know me, I've lost 200 pounds. So, that worked when I first started. But then I realized that if I waited a whole nother year before I got up, it was going to take me forever. And so now the mantra for me is, it doesn't matter how many times you fall down. It only matters how many times you get up and how quickly. If you start at the next week or the next day or the next meal, you're going to get results a lot faster than if you wait, to the beginning of the month or a whole nother year. So part of my system includes having these mantras that I can pick myself up and get going again, and also buzzwords that are really important to me that help me to see how I want to be. So the one that I'm working on now is that I am very accepting and not judgmental. Okay, because that judgmental thing comes from, I think, that linear thinking, because you go, why would you do that? Why would you skip to that step if you didn't do this step? That kind of thing. And the other part of the system, I think, is that you really need support. You don't have to do it by yourself. My husband's favorite saying is, if you're going to walk through a minefield, follow somebody else. But the idea is, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people, but you're always going to be ahead of some people and you're always going to be behind some people. So the people you can learn from the people that are ahead of you, and people that are behind you can learn from you. And so that gives you a sense of confidence. And I think that's part of what we want, is the joy and confidence and peace in our life, that we have helped others, that we are good at what we do, that we're comfortable in our own skin. And so, when you're in a coaching group or you're in a mastermind group with other women, I think that that's one of the pluses to it, that they can tell you about experiences that they've had, that you're getting ready to go into. Okay. Conversely, there are things that you've done that they haven't done. Okay. So for instance, if I'm in a mastermind group, I can tell people how to lose 100 pounds. I can't tell you how to lose the last 10 because I haven't done that. All right. Conversely, I can help you with systems, because I'm really good at that. I'm not as good as being, let's say, for instance, what I'm working on is being nonlinear. Okay. And so that's something I am always amazed by that. Okay. The people that are like that. And that's a part of what, my muscle, my legacy muscle that I'm trying to grow. So, all right. I said that this was only going to be a half an hour. I want to remind you of one of the strategies you can put in your toolbox, the I am whatever you are. I am a thought leader. I am an adventuresome woman. I am building my impact in the world. The I being putting yourself first. The A being to implement and activate what you're going to do, and M being the motivation. And I think that's kind of a short way to remind yourself. But it also is to me such a declaration of success. I am wonderful. I am happy. I am. Okay. And you are great the way you are right now. And that doesn't mean that there isn't room for growth. So one last chance. I've got one person here. Come on, speak up for yourself. Take a risk. I'd love to hear what you got from this, or if you have a question you would like me to answer. Otherwise, I'm going to end this. So I hope that, while I'm waiting, I hope that this unstructured version of me got you excited. And the last thing I'm going to say is that at the beginning of February, I'm going to be doing a 5-day intensive at noon. It's going to be like 20 minutes. and I think it's going to be great because, like I said, too often we get to January, and by February, our resolve, our determination has fizzled. And so I feel like this is a way to get that picked up and get you started again. So I'm doing one more Tuesday next week. If you have any questions you want me to answer, be sure to let me know. If there's something that you liked, let me know that too. So that's it for me. Let's talk again next Tuesday. Bye.